guys ready to rock? Excellent, me too. All right, so here's the way it's gonna work. Today we're gonna be talking about rental rehabbing and how to do it remotely and how to do it safely. So we're gonna go through, I'm gonna drop a lot of knowledge and content on you guys, and then I will open it up at the end for a Q&A. So throughout the class, if you have a question, you can type it either in the Q&A or in the chat. And then when I'm done, I will go in and start answering questions. So let's get started. All right, so we are here today to talk about rental rehabbing. I am Stacy Conkey, and I'm here with Jen Conkey, and we are the founders of Warriors of Wealth. We are located in San Diego, California. And if you know anything about California, what you know is it's crazy expensive here. So all of the work that we do in real estate, we do remotely, and we're really excited to have the opportunity to come and share with you what we've learned over the past 17 years so that ideally your journey can be smooth and just so much easier. And we're excited to be here with you today. So just wanted to spend a few minutes letting you get to know us so that you know who is teaching you, who is spending this next period of time with you, and hopefully he'll be your mentor as you go forward with this journey. All right, so we've been investing in real estate since 2003. So we've been doing it for just 17 years this month. We've been doing it for a while. We have invested in 14 different markets across the US. All of it's been done remotely. So what does remotely mean? If you haven't been to one of our teleclasses or master classes before, you might not have heard that verbiage. Remotely means we sit in our office in San Diego or in our condo in Mexico or in the Bahamas on vacation. The whole point is it doesn't matter where our physical body is. We run our business from wherever we are. As long as we have a laptop and a cell phone available, we can pretty much do everything we do in our business. We don't go to our properties. We've learned to run our business without physically being on site, which has given us a lot of freedom. So I want to teach you guys that today. So Jen is a leader in corporate America for 22 years. So she did investing as a side business throughout her career, and she was able to retire and focus solely on real estate. I'm Stacy, and I was a CFO when I left corporate America to invest in real estate. And I really have a passion for teaching and coaching, and I've been working with new investors for more than 10 years in helping them either get their first property or scale their business and start going into apartments and larger multifamily. So Jen and I combined our skills to create the Warriors of Wealth real estate investing, coaching, and mastermind. And we are happy to be with here today. And let's get into the content. All right, so let's start by talking about the different levels of rehab, right? There's different kinds of rehab you can do. One I'd say is nice fix and flip, meaning on the fancier side of things, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, new flooring, not carpet like hardwood or, a nicer laminate, like a nice fix and flip, the kind you would see on HGTV, right? That's one level of rehab. Another level of rehab is when you're going to be selling it on the market to a homeowner, but you're not doing that level of upgrade. You might do like, a lower level of cabinets, lower level of counters. Maybe you do use more carpet in the house. And those would be for neighborhoods that really can't support, from an ARV standpoint, they can't support that higher end fix and flip. We personally in our business, we don't do any basic fix and flips. It's either the nice level fix and flip or where we don't do it, right? Also on the rental side, there's the nice rental, which is going in and making it look like the nice fix and flip, except all of the materials are a little bit lower end, so it doesn't cost so much, but it has a really big pop factor. And then a basic rental, which is where you go in and basically you're probably painting and cleaning the carpets and just repairing anything that's broken. So we tend to focus more in the nice rental side of things. It doesn't cost us a ton to do it, but what we find is focusing on doing a renovation in that arena gives us a higher level of tenant, allows us to be a little bit choosier with who's going to be living in our properties, which increases the chance of us having a successful tenant-landlord relationship. Right, and just to give you a little bit of visual as we're going to get into the how-to as we get further in, but I want to give you a visual. Some of these pictures are from our students, some are from ours. So fix and flip, there's a before and after for fix and flip. So we tend to focus more on the landscaping when you're doing a fix and flip with rental, probably not as worried about it. We're obviously doing really, really nice interior. So look in the right picture for the bathroom. You're using tile wall with a colored accent. Everything is new. The vanity, the mirror, the toilet, the racks, and everything matches. As you see, everything is brushed nickel throughout. So that's the kind of thing we do when we're doing a rehab for a fix and flip. In the left picture, you'll see kitchen is, white cabinets, which is the most popular right now, and granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and very open. Both of these were from two of our students in our mastermind who have seen either of these properties in person. All right, this is one of ours. So there's the ugly duckling on the left. On the right is that same house renovated. The vantage point is that it's just turned. So what you're looking at right now in the picture on the left is as if you're standing in the street. The picture on the right, it was as if you had walked up those stairs and were looking at the side of the house. So this is not the level of renovation we would do on a rental property because it costs, $100,000 to renovate the property at that level. So we wouldn't do that for a rental property, but if you're going to do a fix and flip, it needs to pop, especially when there's other properties on the market that you're competing with. All right, and this is the inside of another fix and flip. So same thing in the kitchen, you see stainless steel. Well, this wasn't a great fridge, but it was a temporary hold one. But you have new flooring. You have, in this case, we have these quartz countertops, white shaker cabinets. You have brushed nickel throughout the whole house that everything matches. New doors, like everything is brand new. And that before picture, that house it was a disaster. One of the things about rehabbing, although there are times where we literally want to pull our hair right out of our head because it's so frustrating dealing with contractors sometimes. But one of the really cool parts of rehabbing is when you're done and you get to see something transform from the most disgusting, ugly thing you've ever seen to something that just puts a giant smile on your face. Usually because it's done and sold at that point, right? That's the reality of it. It's not always fun, but man, what you can put back on the market is so gratifying and so cool. Oh, here's another one. This is that same house when it was just a mess. So there's the before and the after. We take it from something that looks like just yuck to gorgeous, and a home that someone can live in and raise their family in. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the rental rehab side of things. All right, so on the left, this is a duplex. So you can see the two doors on it. As you have before and after, same thing. This is a big rehab. This is also one of ours. I asked some of our students to send some pictures, but I didn't think about it until it was a little bit late. So I have a few of them in here. All right, and then we have a before and after. Now, something I want to point out to you, the difference. In the fix and flip rehabs, in the picture on the right, I want you to see some things that are different from what you'd see in a flip. So for one, if you look at the windows are the windows that were there before because they worked, they weren't broken. We did not replace them. In a fix and flip, you would absolutely replace them 100%. Also, look at the countertop. That is not granite. It is not quartz. I don't know what it is, probably Corian. It's something, a much lower grade, but it's a hardy grade for tenants. We're not using a nice big fancy spigot for the sink. So we didn't replace the sink. The sink was the original. We just cleaned it. Now the floor is new, but it's a simple peel and stick laminate as opposed to going in and putting new. The door's in good shape, but it was painted. You can see like there's a little dent in the door. If it was a flip, there's no way we would keep that door. We would replace it. Some of the other things, what you might see is this is probably also the equivalent of when someone was doing like a basic flip, fix and flip, which we don't do. But if we did do that, this is probably what it would look like. We would do, the main things, but I want you to keep an eye on this because this is important if you're going to be rehabbing, especially if you're ever going to do fix and flip. We're not focusing on that in this training or in trainings in general, but we have taught fix and flip for years. And so I want to show you some of the differences so that in case you're doing that, you can pay attention to the details because it totally matters to a buyer. So look in the picture on the right, and I want you to look at the window on the right, and look down a little bit and over to the right. What do you see there? You see I can't think what it's called. The thing where you plug it in, an outlet. Outlet. Do you see how the outlet cover is yellow? It's the original outlet cover. Now, I think if I had seen this before my contractor took the pictures, I would have said, oh my goodness, go spend the $1 and put a new one on. But this is the kind of thing that's typical to see in a flip that's a basic one, or when people haven't been rehabbing for fix and flip and they don't realize stuff like that really stands out to the buyer. You can also see another one on the wall. And throughout the room, there's just a couple that They're the original ones. When you're doing a fix and flip, you can't pass over anything. This is part of why you also want to work in a little bit higher price point. Another thing that will be different on a fix and flip than we have here in this rental rehab is the doorknobs. Like the doorknobs wouldn't have, I don't know if that's paint or tape, but they would be brand new. They would all be matching, and the doors would all be brand new and matching. And then the grate in the floor would not be the original grate. It would be something that was new that matched. It would probably be some kind of brushed nickel. All right. So I just wanted to give you some visual ideas, especially if you're just getting started. Sometimes until you've actually done the project, you don't really know the difference. And we've worked with some students who've done a fix and flip, and then they come to us for coaching and they can't sell their property and they don't know why. And let's say I'm looking at the house on the right and they're saying, well, like, yeah, I put this house back on the market. I did the flooring and the kitchen and all this. I would immediately say, okay, here's the things you need to do. Change out the floor grate, change out the doors, change out the doorknobs, change out the plugs and switches, and possibly change out those windows. So those would be some basic things that really don't cost a lot, but have a really big visual impact. All right, this is actually, so Steve in our program, if you've been to any of other classes or you come to our Live at 5 on Wednesdays, you've heard Steve Caro's name a number of times. He's in our mastermind program. He started in February this year, and he just closed on his 10th duplex. Well, a lot of the duplexes that he bought were already performing, but he has bought a couple that were fixers. So this is his first one that he completed that was a fixer that didn't have tenants in it already. So he got a little bit of a before and after there. You can see this didn't cost him that much. They weren't expecting to have to replace the subfloor, but the subfloor was bad. So they had to put some extra money into fixing the subfloor. But look at what just a coat of like some new flooring and a coat of paint does. And one of the things that I think really makes a big difference to renters when they're coming to view your property compared to others is when your rental has the visual of a flip, and that would be like gray paint, or beige paint, or blue paint with the white accent trim. It looks like a house they'd see on HGTV. Even though the flooring materials are going to be cheaper, the paint might be a little bit lower quality. It has that visual. It makes a really big difference. Every rehab that Jen and I do when it comes to rentals always looks like that. And we have great feedback as a result. That's a before and after for one of our students' rehabs. All right, so I wanted to get a visual. Let's talk about the types of rehabbing. So a lot of people that we have met along our journey are the DIY type, right? They do it yourself. I'm going to rehab it myself. I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to go to the store and do the shopping. I'm going to pull up YouTube videos and watch how to change out a sink. Do it yourself. The do-it-yourself is great if you're doing this as a hobby and you're doing it just because it's fun to do, but you're not doing it as a business. You're not doing it to make money. If you're running this as a business, you're not doing things yourself. And I'm going to teach you how to think differently so that you can truly build a business that gives you freedom. It gives you the ability to go where you want. When you're doing do-it-yourself, that is not in alignment with the type of lifestyle we're going to show you how to create when you learn to run your business differently. All right, but do-it-yourself is a type of rehabbing. In fact, we have one of our mastermind students, when they came to us, they had just finished a property in Missouri, and he lived in California, but he flew to Missouri, and his daughter lived there, and they basically did it themselves. And he's around 50 years old or so, and he was like, I got to figure out how to do this another way, because frankly, my body is not gonna, I can't do this for 20 more years. My body's gonna break down. And I've worked with a lot of people who are, between 40 and 60 years old, who are used to using their hands, and they're starting to recognize the more you do, like it's not your 20-year-old body anymore. Like it breaks down. So you want to start increasing your skill sets so that you know how to think differently, so that you can grow a type of business that you can do without using your physical body. So frankly, it doesn't matter if you have, if your hands hurt or your back aches. I mean, it sucks. Go take some Advil, but it's not going to stop you from doing your business because of it. All right, so that's one type. Another type of rehabbing is being your own GC. So being your own GC means you're the ones hiring the subs. So you're not doing it yourself anymore. You're not swinging a hammer. You're not doing the work, but you are coordinating everything. The downside of that is if you are not already a general contractor and not already very, very knowledgeable in the area of rehab, knowing what needs to go in what order, you're going to be dealing with a lot of headaches. Because if you bring in your I know you probably wouldn't do this, but let's say you bring in your drywaller and your paint crew, And then you're like, well, oh shoot, I need to get the plumber in here. The plumber needs to work behind the wall. Like there's a certain level of knowledge that needs to be had and a certain level of expertise for you to do that successfully. And even if you have it, I'd still make the argument that it's not your ideal way to run the business, because if you're not physically there and making sure the subs are there, getting there on time every day, finishing their part so you can get the next sub in, like there's a lot of coordinating that happens. But if you're not there, it's not going to happen, or it's not going to get done anywhere near the time frame that you initially established. So although you could be your own GC in time if you learned a lot, you're really physically tied to being at that property. So I hope you really like being there all the time and that you don't like any freedom, because unfortunately it becomes a job instead of a business. The third type of rehabbing, and the one that I want to really teach you about, teach you how to think through, is rehabbing like a CEO. And a CEO is someone who looks at, well, what is the strategy of our business? What are we trying to accomplish? Okay, I want to rehab these 3 properties and these 3 different markets. Well, great. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm certainly not going to get on a plane and go fly there and do it myself. So how do I still get it done? I get it done by hiring a licensed and experienced general contractor who will go into the property, who's local to the market, has his own subs or his own employees. I'm saying his, it could be his or her, has their own subs or their own employees, and they go and they manage the job. Your GC is the one dealing with the subcontractors who are showing up late or coordinating who needs to get here first, second, and third. And you're removing all of the headache of that and putting it on the person that's what they do for a profession. Are you going to pay more for the rehab? Probably yes, because you have to pay for the GC to do that. But the amount of time that it saves you, and plus, from the knowledge standpoint, most people don't have that knowledge. The amount of time it saves you, that's what allows you to go and build a business where you can work in multiple different markets. But if you're at one place doing it yourself, how are you going to be in 3 different places? You can't be. So a CEO looks at the business like, okay, how do I get the most done from a leveraged standpoint? And that's going to be hiring a general contractor. All right, let's talk about what we're going to be focusing on today. So overall, as I'm teaching you the strategy of doing rental rehab, I'm going to be focusing it from a standpoint of doing a nice rental, being the CEO and hiring a GC, and doing everything remotely. And it's important that you understand that that's the foundation from which I'm going to be teaching everything from here. So we do nice work, we operate and act as the CEO and hire third-party general contractors, and we do everything remotely. So put that hat on. Even if you're in your mind, you're like, well, I would do it myself. Cool. Well, I'm not going to teach you about doing it yourself here. I am going to teach you how to do it that way. So clear your mind of any preconceived ideas and just be open to learning a new way of doing it that will truly provide location and time freedom for you. Okay, so there's 3 main areas that we're going to focus on when it comes to rehabbing remotely. The first is finding GCs. The second is vetting GCs. And the third is maintaining control and mitigating risk. All right, let's talk about finding contractors. So when you're looking for contractors, if you think about it, if you were going to go hire a contractor where you live, would you really walk out your door, walk out to the sidewalk and start looking up and down the street? I don't see any contractors. So now you just start yelling, hey, is anybody a contractor out there? No, you're not going to do that, right? It would be so ridiculous. Someone would probably show up with a white jacket, a special white jacket for you, and bring you somewhere quiet and nice, right? So we're not going to do that. But how would you do it? So part of it is there's a really big mindset shift that happens when you're going to start doing things remotely, particularly rehabbing. So if you were going to go look for a roofer for your own house where you live, you're not walking outside and walking around. So sometimes when people say, well, how on earth are you going to find contractors in another market? Well, my question to them was, well, how do you find them in your own market? I'm going to open up my laptop and I'm going to start looking at the different websites that are available that have contractors on them. So it could be Home Advisor, Angie's List, House, Porch, Thumbtack. There's so many different websites. Those are just a few. And you're going to start looking at who's listed, what are their credentials, and then you're going to get on the phone and start calling them. All right, we're looking for licensed, experienced general contractors who've done the kind of work that you're looking to do on this project. All right, so let's start by talking about what are some of the biggest mistakes made by new investors. Well, first and foremost, until you've come here and learned that there's another way, definitely the do it yourself is a big mistake because it will inevitably cost way more than you thought. It'll take you way more time than you thought, and it will probably hurt your bones and your skin way more than you thought. There's just a bigger cost to doing work yourself than it seems like there would be when you're planning your project. Another big mistake by new investors is not vetting the contractor. So what do I mean by that? Not vetting contractors means you call someone, you have a conversation, and then you hire them. So we're going to talk about the vetting process and what you need to be doing to actually increase the chance of having a successful rehab with a contractor. The other biggest mistake, and this is by far the biggest mistake by new investors, is paying ahead. All right, is paying for work before it's been done. Because if you think about it, and this doesn't matter whether you're doing it in your hometown or halfway across the country, once you've given money to someone for a job that they haven't done, and that money is liquid and it's in their bank, what's going to stop them from just taking off or not showing up? So the way that we do our business, the way we teach our students to do our business is through a draw process. And we pay for work that is completed and verified. And that's one of the things I want to teach you today. All right, so let's talk about vetting contractors. So we're looking for contractors that are licensed, insured, and experienced, okay? All three of those. Now, every once in a while, you will have a situation where there is no GC license in the area. So for example, if you're working in Texas, in the state of Texas, the trades have licenses. Like there's a license for being an electrician, for HVAC, for plumbing, but there's no general contractor license. So just know that there might be an exception to what I'm about to teach you, and you just have to work through that the best that you can. And you really have to vet them through the other things if you don't have a GC license. But you always want to be working with someone who's licensed. Here's the reason. When someone is not licensed with the state, when that license is available and something goes wrong on the deal, you don't have any leverage. When you're working with a general contractor who's gone through all the hoops to actually get their license, if they do not perform for you and they do something that is egregious enough that you can go to the board and have their license revoked, that's going to impact their business. So by working with licensed contractors, you're working with people who know that they have something to lose by not operating within the confines of your agreement and what's ethical. So always licensed. Insured means they have liability insurance. All right, we're going to talk through what that needs to look like. And of course, we want them to be experienced. I don't want to hire a GC for a super nice fix and flip for someone who's only done basic rental rehab on apartment buildings, right? I want to match up the job and the project with the experience. I never want to be someone's first job or first entry into any new area. When you're the pioneer, you tend to get a little slaughtered. So you're better off going with someone that you might pay a little bit more to, but they've already done it over and over. They have their systems, their processes, their staff, or their subcontractors already in place. All right, so let's talk about the license. So when you're vetting the GCs, so let's say you called a couple of GCs, you got some quotes on the properties. Now this is all happening during your due diligence process. So you've talked to some GCs, and let's say you have one that you are really leaning towards, you seem to like them, they say the right things, their quote was in line, and now you're just trying to make sure before you sign a contract with them that everything looks good. So you're going to get a copy of their GC license. They should absolutely be able to provide that to you. You might even be able to find it online, but there's no reason they shouldn't be able to provide it to you as well. Look to make sure that it's in their name, and look to make sure that it is not expired. Okay, those are the things to pay attention to. And you also want to get a copy of their driver's license so that you can match up their driver's license with their general contractor license. And I know that probably sounds a little bit overboard. And trust me, the first time you get burned, and we've been burned a number of times over 17 years, which is why all these controls are now in place, why we teach you that. The first time you get burned on something like that, you will start to realize very quickly that these are actually pretty small steps that you can take that can avoid a lot of frustration and a lot of money, being spent unnecessarily on someone who never should have been on your job. Okay, so you're getting their GC license, checking the expiration date and their name, and make sure it says what you think. So if you're expecting their GC license and it says licensed plumber, you're like, oh, wait, hold on a second. The one thing you guys should always be doing is looking at everything with a critical eye. Go into it. They say in our business, trust but verify. But frankly, I don't even think that trust is a thing. It's really just verify. But don't be so anxious to hire someone that you don't actually go in with a level of skepticism that will help you to catch if something doesn't look right. All right. And then if something doesn't look right, then you follow up with it. And maybe they say, oh, I didn't realize I sent you that one. Here's also our GC license. Cool. Or you might say, hey, this is a plumbing license. And they say, oh, well, that's, I have a plumbing license. I don't have a GC license. Oh, good to know. That's something you want to know now before we get any further with them. All right. Next is insured. You want to make sure that they have liability insurance of at least $1 million. Now, when you're doing a rehab project, it's very, very important that your LLC, if you're doing it as an LLC, if you're doing it in your personal name, which I don't recommend, but if you're doing your personal name, then the additional insured would be you. If you're doing it with an LLC, the additional insured would be the LLC. So what does that mean? Additional insured is when, let's say the contractor has a $1 million liability policy, and at the bottom of the insurance form, the Accord insurance form, it says additional insured has your LLC name. What that means is, let's say one of the contractor's employees does a slip and fall and tries to make a claim against your company because they were on your property. The contractor's insurance is the one that covers it because your company was added as an additional insured. So you are insured on their policy. Now, this is not your homeowner's insurance. And if you're doing rehabbing, the kind of insurance you're looking for is actually called builder's risk. So that's separate. You still need to have that because you need to protect the property itself. What we're looking to protect with the contractor is their liability insurance. You have to make sure that you are named. And if you aren't, and someone tries to sue you, you don't have the protection of the general contractor's insurance. All right, and it's super simple. Don't ever be afraid of asking someone. A contractor should never be surprised that you're asking because it's so common. And I remember when I was new, I was really uncomfortable. And all of my students that I've worked with always have that same reaction. So I'm just going to tell you, they're like, oh man, I feel weird about asking. Are they going to feel like I'm asking for too much? I'm like, no, it's so common. All they have to do is pick up the phone or send an email to their insurance agent and just say, hey, I need to add, ABC LLC on as additional insured and get a copy. In, half hour, the insurance agent adds you on and will email you a copy. Make sure that you're getting an email directly from the insurance agent. Not that your contractor is likely to, change the document, but this is another layer of protection to make sure that what you're getting is not like a forged insurance document. When it comes directly from the insurance company, the insurance agent, then, you have just another level of internal controls there. All right, and then third, we want someone who's experienced. So there's a couple of different areas that come into the experienced column. One, you always want to do a background check on the contractor, as complete a background check as you can. There's a lot of different things that are available on Google. You can just do background checks. You want to get that. And not that you're looking for anything specific, but just read what it says. If there's something that concerns you, like, oh, wow, they were charged with embezzlement or theft, a year ago or 2 years ago, obviously that's going to be a high level of concern and you're probably not going to move forward with them. But you want to make sure you check that. Don't just assume that everything is fine. Make sure it's fine. So do your background check. The other thing you're going to do is ask for references. Now, references by themselves don't really carry a ton of weight because why would someone give you the name and number of someone who's going to speak badly of them? They're probably not. But it doesn't matter. You're still going to call so that you can get a gut check. You're going to call the person and you're going to ask them, what kind of work did the contract do for you? How long ago was it? What was the total budget amount? And just make sure it all matches up to what the contractor said. And if your spidey senses start tingling, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you're just like, I don't know, something doesn't feel right. You need to pay attention to that. And don't ever dismiss that feeling when you're new because you're new. Because I know work with a lot of new people who are like, well, I don't feel something feels wrong, but I don't know. I'm so new. It's probably just me not being experienced. It's not. It's not that. If something doesn't feel right, something's not right. So you're looking to be complete and just make sure everything, like nothing pops out as, wait a second, something's not right there. All right. So calling references, super important. Make sure you have at least 3, ideally 5. Also get pictures and just make sure everything adds up. And the third thing that we always do is we do regular Google research. And these days I do LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So I'm going to look on Google. I'm going to Google their name. I'm going to Google their company name. I'm just going to see what I can find. Hopefully I don't find anything other than, yep, they're a contractor. There's nothing, no bad reviews. But you might find, oh, well, shoot, this person's coming up on Thumbtack and they have they have 20 jobs and they have a 2-star rating. That's a huge concern. So I'm going to go look at what people said and just follow the rabbit trail down. And ideally, you don't find anything. But if you do, you will be so glad that you took the time to do this work now. Because once you're in a job and you're in with a bad contractor, man, there's just like, it's not fun. Nothing worse. So you want to do that work ahead of time. All right, so just make sure always that you're using licensed, insured, and experienced. All right, and then the final thing that I want to talk about, and I want to say it's the most important, but this is important too. Vetting contractors is super critical. But once you've done that and you've nailed that, the next thing that's going to make a huge difference once you're running the job is maintaining control and mitigating risk. All right, and there's 3 main areas we're going to focus on for that. Having a contract, having the draw process down, and project oversight. So let's start with the contract. So you want to have a contract. So it's a general contractor contract that basically states that this is the job, this is the contractor, this is the client, you. You're going to have a scope of work. So if you've not heard of a scope of work before, it's just simply a list of all of the work that's going to be done on a property and what price point has been agreed upon. Ideally, you have a line item for each thing that's going to be done with a dollar amount for that line item. And frankly, if you're working with a hard money lender, you will have to have that because the hard money lender releases funds based on what's been done. So you're going to have to break it up anyway. So you want the GC contract to have the scope of work in it and also the draw schedule. So what's a draw schedule? Draw schedule is going to be the timeline that shows what work is going to be done when. So let's say that we're doing a 6-week project, and let's say demo is week 1 and we're doing rough in plumbing and electrical in weeks 2 and 3. And so whatever the work is going to be in the order that's going to be, this is something I always have the contractor do. I'm like, here, you have the scope of work that we've both agreed to. You said it's going to take 6 weeks. Here's an empty draw schedule. You tell me what things are going to be done in what week, and you incorporate that draw schedule into the contract. All right, you never want to work without a contract. It needs to be complete. It needs to be signed by both parties, and it needs to have the scope of work and the draw schedule. Otherwise, good luck if you ever have to go to small claims court or go to regular court because they didn't do what they said they would do. If anything about the agreement is vague, it's very difficult to ever recover funds on that. So you want to make sure it's complete. Also, it helps you to know that you guys are on the same page, because what if the GC has a different idea of what this project is than you do? Having that contract, scope of work, and draw schedule is going to allow you to vet out any discrepancies before you start the job. All right, next we're going to talk about the draw process. So I'm going to talk about it from 2 standpoints. If you have a hard money lender and if you don't have a hard money lender. So because rehabs are typically not funded by conventional banks, it's really common for people to fund rehab projects with a hard money lender. So the way that works is hard money lenders will typically lend, let's say 80%. If you're new, probably 80% of the purchase price and 100% of the rehab. All right, so you're coming in with a fairly minimal amount of money, 20% down, and they'll fund all of the rehab. But what they do is, let's say the rehab is $50,000. So on the day of closing, you're signing all the documents. They don't cut you a check for $50,000. You sign the loan amount. Now you owe them money, but they haven't given it to you yet. They hold it in like reserve. So the hard money lender has $50,000 sitting in their account. Your contractor starts the work, gets through the first draw. Let's say the first draw was for demo and permits and dumpster, and let's say it was for $4,500, okay, whatever you guys had agreed to. What you do is when that work is done, you're going to send your, which I'm going to talk about in a second, you're going to send out your project overseer to verify the work is done. And then you're going to complete paperwork with the hard money lender that says, okay, I'm ready to receive the funds for the demo, the dumpsters, and the permits, and I need $4,500. And you fill out their form, you send it into the hard money lender, they process it, they usually go verify that the work's been done themselves, and then they release those funds to you and you pay the contractor. Okay, that's one way it can work. Another way, which is the other way is probably a little bit more common, is the contractor completes the work, you have it verified with your project overseer, and then you pay the contractor the $4,500 then, and you're waiting for the hard money lender to reimburse you. So it's always a good idea, because most contractors are not going to want to wait for you to wait for your hard money lender, right? They want to get paid as soon as they've completed the work, especially because we're not paying in advance, which is of course what they're going to want, right? So you pay your contractor, you do the paperwork with the hard money lender, they reimburse you. And then when the contractor's done with draw number 2, you verify the work's been done and done correctly. You release the funds to them, turn in your paperwork to the hard money lender, and then the hard money lender pays you back. All right, so that's how it works with the hard money lender. If you are working without a hard money lender and you're just funding the rehab yourself, the only part of that that's different is that you're just not waiting for reimbursement. You have the money in the bank. When the contractor's done with the work, you verify the work is done, and then you wire the funds, or you pay with a credit card or whatever you had agreed upon. All right, and then last, let's talk about project oversight. This is the most important thing that I could ask you to get out of this call today, because I have been training people for 10 years, and undoubtedly, anytime someone talks about losing money in a deal, it's almost always tied to this one piece. And there is a way to mitigate it and not have that happen. So if you hear nothing else today, hear this. This is going to be the thing that absolutely saves you from lots of mistakes that we've made, lots of mistakes other people have made when they're new and they don't know any better. So what you do is when you're going to have a project, and they really don't care whether it's a local project or across the country, it doesn't matter. No matter what, you need to have this in place. The original home inspector that did your home inspection during your due diligence period, which you're always going to get, you are never going to do a deal without home inspection. And the moment you do, you'll realize you just probably made a $25,000 to $80,000 mistake. It's never good for you when you skip that step. So I'm going to assume you're going to do that, because that would be the safe way to proceed. So before you even hire your home inspector, what we do is we have a conversation with our inspector in a new market saying, we want you to go inspect the house. If everything is good and we move forward with it, we would like you to go and do periodic inspections of the work to make sure that the contractor's actually doing the work that they're saying and that it's done right. Okay, so we use a licensed home inspector. This person could also be a licensed general contractor that is not involved in this job at all and doesn't know your contractor. You need an independent third party to really be your eyes. And even if you were there, you still want that, because really, what are your eyes going to tell you? Unless you're an expert in this area and you're an expert GC, you've been doing it for 30 years, you're not going to see the same stuff that your home inspector is going to see. So what you do is, let's say that the rough-in plumbing and electrical is both done, or your contractor says it's done, and the demo and the dumpster and the permits, right? So you're going to call your home inspector and say, hey, contractor just said that blah, 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 blah is all done. I need you to go out and double check it. So your home inspector goes out there. It doesn't take very much time. It's not a 3-hour home inspection. They're only going to look at what work has been done, or what work is being claimed to have been done. So here's some of the common outcomes from that process. Either one, your home inspector goes out and says, yeah, okay, everything looks good. That doesn't happen that often, actually. More likely, your home inspector goes out there and goes, okay, I mean, the demo is done for the most part. I wouldn't call it done, but it's, it's done-ish. Yes, I see a dumpster in the backyard. Looks like the permits are in process. The rough-in plumbing has been started, but is definitely not done. And the rough-in electrical hasn't been started. Okay, that's a more common conversation. Not that specific. That's a more common conversation where your contractor's like, yeah, everything will be done by Friday. Have your inspector come in. Inspector comes in Friday and it's like 60% done. So what if you didn't have your project overseer go in and your contractor just sent you pictures? it's very difficult from pictures to identify that something is not done, or it's not just set up to look like it's done. We had a contractor once who did something like this with HVAC. They actually laid all of the HVAC, though, I can't think of what it's called, the ductwork. They laid out all the ductwork. They had the HVAC system in the house. The way they took pictures, it looked like it was installed. But of course, we're not going to rely on just that. We have our home inspector go in. Home inspector reports back, just so that you know, none of that is actually connected. It's just laying there. Even the system is not connected. I have a feeling as soon as I leave here, the system is also leaving here. I was like, okay, good to know. So we're not going to go make a payment for that if it's not actually installed. The same thing with the 60% of the work is done. If only 60% of the work is done, then only 60% of the draw will be released. And that's the kind of thing that will keep you safe from, let's say the amount due was $10,000. If that part of the work was done and you sent $10,000, but only $6,000 worth of work was done, well, you're not really in the best position at this point because you've already paid for $4,000 of work that's not done. Whereas if you held it back and said, I'm sorry, I can't release that funds because it's not complete, they're probably going to get their butts in there over the weekend, or as soon as possible, and actually finish it because they need to get the rest of their draw. Okay, so the project oversight is really important. It's often overlooked by people because they don't want to spend the extra money on the inspector. And that money that you pay the inspector, it's gold. First of all, it's not a lot of money. It's typically, call it about $100 a visit. So maybe it's another $600 on your project to keep from potentially losing thousands of dollars. Another thing, like our home inspector once really saved our butt on one where he went in and he's like, hey, just a heads up, your contractor is doing the work right now. It wasn't even something he was supposed to be looking at yet, but he's like, I can see he's preparing the job for this. He is setting it up in such a way that you're going to have a drainage issue. Like it's going to have negative grade and you're going to start having problems with the basement. And so it helped us to catch something before it became a project. But had our project overseer not been out there looking at it, we would never have known that. Right? So there's a lot of benefits that come from doing that. Plus, you can just breathe easy knowing you have licensed, experienced eyes on your job and they work for you. Sometimes when people are new and they have a hard money lender, they think, well, I don't need to send my own inspector because the hard money lender is sending their inspector. And I already have to pay for that, so I don't want to pay twice. Here's the problem with that. The home inspector or the inspector for the hard money lender is not working for you. They're working for the lender. And the lender is not necessarily doing the same level of screening that you would do to make sure that you're working with an OSHI certified home inspector that's been doing it for a very long time, is very knowledgeable. The only one that can do that screening and hire that person is you. So you can't rely on the lender's home inspector. And in fact, Jen and I worked with a hard money lender. We did probably 12 different projects with them over the course of a year. And their inspectors, which I didn't care because we had our own inspector, but their inspectors weren't even inspectors. They were just real estate agents who would go in and take pictures. And then the hard money lender from their office in Los Angeles would look at the pictures and decide, oh, okay, it looks like it's done. We'll release the draws. Well, without our own home inspector, like we could have gotten taken for tens of thousands of dollars because how easy it is to make a picture look like whatever you want. All right. So you're basically going through the process of validating that the draw is correct. Once the project overseer says everything looks good, sends you pictures, then you very quickly, don't make your contractors wait, do a wire transfer so they can get paid. And that's really the trade-off. It's a tricky conversation to have, and I recognize that. When you're dealing with a new contractor and they're used to getting like a third down, I straight up tell them, look, that's not our business model. I'm actually not allowed to do that. I can't pay for work that's not done. I'll give you like $1,000. And by the way, that's actually the law in California. Contractors are not allowed to collect more than $1,000 in advance, right? So I'll tell them, I'll give you $1,000 if you need it, like to get a dumpster and get things going. But the beginning of the job is always demo. That's just labor. So there's really no reason they should have to be out of pocket and need money in advance. But what I tell them is the offside of that is, look, I'll pay you for work done, but I'm not going to make you wait. If you tell me on Friday at 5 p.m., this level of work is done, I will have my home inspector there at 5 p.m. to review it and make sure it's all done and done correctly. So I'll give them a heads up that I'm going to put this layer of control in place. And then as soon as I get the word from the home inspector that everything is done and done right, I'll release the wire transfer. So that's your part in it, is making sure that your contractor gets paid very quickly once you have validated the work. Anyway, so that's the whole process of maintaining control and mitigating risk. And if you can really wrap your arms around this, you can make so much money in real estate if you're willing to learn the skill of rehabbing. It's not always fun. In fact, it's rarely fun. It's always fun at the end when you get to look at your pretty pictures. That's the only time it's fun. But the benefit is you can create tremendous amounts of equity in your personal financial statement or your business financial statement if you're willing to go through this process and learn how to do it. You'll get better and better and better each time. And sometimes you'll have missed a step that I just taught you and be like, oh man, I realized you said that and I just didn't do it, but now I see why, and I'm never going to make that mistake again. It's super common. And if you do that, don't beat yourself up for it. Just take the wisdom, take the experience, and do the next one better and better and better. And eventually, it's just kind of a no-brainer. All right. So let's wrap this up with what is the recipe for success? Be the CEO. Don't go in and do it yourself. Don't go in and be your own GC. Be the CEO, be the leader, be the one who pulls all the pieces together to make stuff happen, but from your laptop so that you have the freedom to be wherever you want to be. Next, vet your GC very thoroughly and trust your gut when your gut is screaming something negative. If your gut's like, everything's good, don't trust gut. Don't trust that part of your gut. Validate everything. But if your gut is ever like, something's not right, trust that part of your gut and find another contractor. All right. And then third is use project oversight to minimize risk and make sure that you have a more successful rehab going forward. All right. I hope that was helpful to you guys. I know that when you're getting started in real estate, particularly rehabbing, it feels like a very overwhelming and scary process. And I assure you, in the beginning, everything is scary, but it's very doable. You just have to take one step at a time. So I know that some of you are like, cool, I'm good, I'm running with it. And there's others of you who are like, I would really love to not have to do this by myself. So if you kind of fit into that category and you feel like you want some help, you want some hand holding as you go through your journey, over the next few days, we've set aside some time so that we can talk to you and just see if we can help you. We'll chat for 30 or 45 minutes or so, and we'll map out an exact action plan so that you can get started either building your portfolio or getting your first property or scaling your real estate business. And if rehabbing is a part of that, we'll talk about how we can help you leverage and learn rehabbing to massively increase your bottom line. So that's something that is up your alley and you'd like to chat with us and have a little strategy call. We have a little system set up. If you text the word freedom, you don't have to put the quotations, just the word freedom, to the phone number on the screen, which is 619-373-8461. We have our business cell phone set up to automatically text you back a link to our calendar so you can set up a time to chat with us. And we'll, have a conversation, see how we can help you, and, and hopefully see you on the other side.